Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome. I welcome you all to this lecture in the course Sandhi in Paninian Grammar. This is the final lecture of At Sandhi. We have been studying At Sandhi in quite a lot of detail because it is a very important type of sandhi. We said that ach sandhi is that sandhi which replaces ach. Ach is a vowel. This sandhi could be a consonant or could be another vowel as well, depending on the environment. Let us take a recap of what we have done so far about ach sandhi and also some related topics to deal with. We always stated, and I constantly repeated, that there are two classifications, ekasthanika ekadesha and dvisthanika ekadesha. And we kept on studying these two diagrams. Ekasthanika ekadesha, you have A plus B as the input and A plus B in samhita mode, A coming immediately before B, and in case of this environment A gets substituted by C. So, A plus B is the input and C is the output. This C plus B is the output. This is ekasthanika ekadesha. And dvisthanika ekadesha is the second classification, where you have A plus B as the input and A coming immediately before B and B coming immediately after A. Now in place of both of them, C is the one substitute. So A plus B is the input, C is the output. This is the dvisthanika ekadesha. We said that ekasthanika ekadesha has got these two instances. If you have ik followed by ach, then in place of ik, yan is the substitute. This is the first instance. And the second instance is h followed by ach, and h is substituted by ayavayav. These are the two instances of ekasthanika ekadesha, and we have studied them in detail. We also interpreted the sutras iko yanachi and icho yavayavaha to understand the sandhi better. We also studied the uddeshya vidheya bhava and the number of substituents that are delineated because of this uddeshya vidheya bhava. Then we also studied the criteria for selection of the substitute. We then also studied the template examples and the specific examples of both these sandhis. We also studied the statements made by the later Paninian grammatical tradition in order to make the treatment exhaustive and also to account for the changes that are brought in by the course of the time. Then we studied the five instances of Dvisthanika Ekadesha. The first and the second one are stated on this slide. So if you have a followed by any ach in general, both of them they get substituted by one guna substitute. This is the first instance. And the second instance is if a is followed by h, both of them they get substituted by vriddhi. Of course, in the samhita mode. So a and h, a and ach, they are all in the samhita mode. And guna over here and vriddhi over here are the substitutes. And then we have pararupa as well as savarna dirgha. So you have a plus b, a is purva, b is para, and in place of a plus b, this para, namely b, is stated to be the one substitute. This is pararupa. And if you have ak followed by another ak, obviously the savarna ak, then in place of both of them, ak dirgha is the substitute stated by the sutra akas savarne dirgha. This is the savarna dirgha sandhi. And finally you have purvarupa sandhi, where you have a plus b in close proximity in the samhita, where a is purva and b is para, and in place of both of them you place the purva, that is a. These are the 5 types that we have studied, and these are the sutras. So guna sandhi is stated by the sutra Adgunaha 6187. Vriddhi sandhi is stated by the sutra Vriddhirechi 6188. We also studied some more sutras stating Vriddhi sandhi. Then pararupa sandhi is primarily stated by Ingi Pararupam 6194. Then savarna dirgha sandhi stated by sutra Akas savarne dirgha 61101. And finally, the purvarupa sandhi is stated by the sutra Amipurvaha onwards, 61107 onwards. The Dvisthanika Ekadesha is governed by the Adhikara Sutra Ekah Purva Parayoho, which means one substitute takes place in place of 2 sounds, namely previous and latter. Ekah Purva Parayoho is an adhikara that governs the 5 instances of Dvisthanika Ekadesha. Panini in his own grammar has stated Iko Yanachi as well as Echo Yavayavaha and the other sutras of the Ayavayav Sandhi before this particular adhikara. If you look at the numbers, Iko Yanachi is 6177, Echo Yavayavaha is 6178, and then the other sutras, Ite Dhatyutsu 89 and so on, Kshayajayau Shakyarthe, Krayastadarte, they come before 6184 in the Samhitayam Adhikara. Now in this lecture, let us look at some other issues related to Ach Sandhi. And the 4 issues that we shall deal with are stated on this particular slide. Let us take some sentence examples and try to apply the rules and try to dissolve the sandhi. Let us also study how the ach sandhi rules feed the swara rules, accent rules. Then let us deal with this complex task of sandhi splitting, in which some directions will be mentioned, and finally let us deal with the topic of asiddha with reference to the ach sandhi. So let us take the sentence examples first. And these examples are primarily taken from the very celebrated and popular text called Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this example we have already taken at the beginning. Let us take it once again. Karmanyevadhikaraste. This is the verse. And here we have 3 words. Karmani, Eva and Adhikaras. 3 words are uttered in Samhita mode, are in close proximity. So here we have E followed by this A, and so this is the scope of application of eco-energy, and here we have A at the end of eva followed by A at the beginning of adhikaras, which is the scope of application of akas savarne dirghaha. So both the sandhis take place and you have karmani eva as the input and karmanya eva as the output. Similarly, eva adhikaras as input and ev a and dhikaras as the output. When you join them together, you get the line karmanyevadhikaras. So there are these two sandhis that are playing an important role over here, and they are yan sandhi as well as the savarna dirgha sandhi. Similarly, if you look at sangostva karmani, mate sangostva karmani, here we have sanga u plus astu and akarmani, three words. Now sanga u, this u comes because of the sutras applying, and we shall study them when we take up Swadi Sandhi section. Right now let us assume that this u comes in because of the sutras, and so we have a followed by u. So this is the scope of application of Guna Sandhi, and then we have astu where a is the beginning vowel and astu has got u at the end, and immediately after this u comes a. So there are lots of sandhis that can take place over here. So now this sanga plus u, and you have the scope of application of guna. So guna taking place, and so sango, this is the output generated within a pada. Now after this becomes o, now this a, which is the right hand side environment, this comes into play, and now this o and a, o coming at the end of the pada, a coming at the beginning of the pada. So there now we have purva rupa sandhi stated by the sutra engah padanta dati, that is applied over here, and so we have o as the one substitute in place of both o and a. Similarly, this u and this a, they both are in samhita mode, and so this u is substituted by va, that is yan sandhi. So we have sang, o, stva and akarmani as the next stage in the derivation, and so then when we join them together we get sangostva karmani as the sentence. And here we have guna as well as purva rupa as well as yan sandhi taking place. Similarly, the other example is pujarhau and arisudana. Katham bhishmam aham sankhe pujarha varisudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. Katham bhishmam aham sankhe dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. So here we have pujarhau plus arisudana, au followed by a, the scope of application of ayavayav sandhi. So au gets substituted by av, so we have pujarhav and arisudana, and when we join them together we get pujarha varisudana. This is the example of ayavayav sandhi. Similarly, tamuvacha rishikeshaha. So tam is derived in this manner, ta plus and uvacha is derived in this manner, u, a, vach and a. Internal prakriya happens. We are not going into the details of all these. Just suffice for us to say that there is samprasarana taking place. So you have u, a, and then vacha and a, and then since this a and this a, they both are in within a pada. However, this is so there is purva rupa sandhi that takes place, and so we have a as the one substitute. So t, a, m, tam, and u replacing both these vowels. This is samprasarana. So samprasaranacha applies. Here amipurvaha applied. Here samprasaranacha applies, and we have a purva rupa sandhi, and so we have uvach tam uvach. There are two purva rupa sandhis taking place in this fourth example. Then we have sidanti mama gatrani. So we have sid plus a plus anti, and here we have a followed by another a. They are within a pada, and so atogune applies and pararupa sandhi takes place. So this a comes over here as the substitute, and we get the form sidanti. This is the example of pararupa sandhi. Similarly, pashyaitam pandavutranam acharya mahatim chamum. So we have pashya plus etam, and this a is followed by a. This is the scope of application of vriddhi sandhi, and so we have pashya plus I plus tam as the output, that is pashyaitam. This is the example of vriddhi sandhi. So this is how we can take multiple examples of sentences, and we can show various sandhis applying and making those units fit to be used as part of the sentence. Now let us go to the second topic, feeding the accent rules. We have seen this topic before. Let us take a recap. The output of ach sandhi becomes the input for accent rules. This is very important. In both situations, within a pada there is internal sandhi, and also between two padas. That means when it is an external sandhi. We have already studied how yan sandhi becomes an input to the accent rules when we studied two important sutras, Udatta Yano Hal Purvat 61174 and Udatta Svaritayor Yanah Svaritonudattasya 824. Let us study this sutra, which is important as far as the Dvisthanika Ekadesha is concerned. The sutra says Ekadesha Udattena Udattaha 825. So the one substitute in place of two substituents is Udatta if one of the substituents is Udatta. So we have Udatta plus Anudatta as the input, and the output is Udatta, or Anudatta plus Udatta and the output is Udatta. And the third option is Udatta plus Udatta and the output is also Udatta vowel. Ekadesha Udattena Udattaha. Let us take the examples of each. So we have Udatta plus Anudatta as input, and Ekadesha Udattena Udattaha applies, 825 applies, and the output generated is Udatta. So here is a concrete example. So we have Rama followed by and we are deriving Ramam, which is the Dvitiya Ekavachana accusative singular. Now the word Rama has got the final vowel Udatta. This A is Udatta, so it is unmarked. This A is Anudatta, and that is why it has got a horizontal bar below it to indicate that this A is Udatta. Now is a subsuffix, so by default any subsuffix is Anudatta. So this is also marked as Anudatta. So now we have Rama plus by 412 and the accent rules apply. And now we have 61107 Amipurvaha applying. So we have Ram, and M. Now what is the accent of this That is the issue. So the substituents of this are this at the end of Rama and at the beginning of Now at the beginning of is Anudatta and at the end of Rama is Udatta. So in fact this is a combination of udatta plus anudatta. And so now 825 says that the resultant combination would be a vowel which is udatta. So this remains udatta, therefore it remains unmarked, and so we have Ramam with the final being marked as udatta. Let us take the other example where we have anudatta followed by udatta, that is an input, and 825 applies and the output generated is udatta. So here we have labhate plus atra. Labhate is a verbal form and it is not appearing at the beginning of a sentence, mind you. There is some word that appears before this word. And so we have labhate followed by atra. Now labhate has got all vowels anudatta. So all of them, they are marked with the horizontal bar below the letters, followed by atra where you have got tra with a vertical bar on top of it, indicating that it is a swarita that comes immediately after an udatta, that is which is unmarked. So labhate has got all anudattas and atra has got a udatta. Now in this case we have a followed by a. This is the scope of application of the sutra engah padanta dati, generating the purva rupa sandhi. So we have labhat, a and tra. So now this a, which is a substitute, will also get an accent. So its substituents, namely a and have also got some accents. So a is anudatta and is udatta. But now 825 comes into play and says that because one of the substituents is udatta, the substitute has to be udatta. So in labhate tra, a becomes udatta and so it remains unmarked, and bha becomes anudatta, la becomes anudatta, and tra remains as swarita. So this is how in labhate tra 825 plays a crucial role as far as the accent distinction is concerned. Ekadesha udattena udattaha. Finally, we have udatta plus udatta as input and udatta as the output. So we have Ramo plus atra, in which O is udatta and atra has got as udatta. So here there are two udattas, O and a. Now 61109 applies and replaces O and a by purva, that is O, and so we have Ram, O and tra, and so this O now will inherit both the features of udattas of both the vowels. In fact, by 825 ekadesha udattena udattaha, O will become udatta. So we have Ramotra where O is udatta, and because Ra comes before it, so it is marked as anudatta with a horizontal bar below Ra, and Tra is treated as swarita with the vertical bar on top of the letter. This is how the accent rules are fed by the sandhi rules, ach sandhi rules. We have seen previously how ikoyanachi, which is ekasthanika ekadesha, that feeds into the swara sutras, accent rules. Here are the examples where ekadesha, namely dvisthanika ekadesha, in the adhikara ekapurva parayoho, when this ekadesha takes place, how the ekadesha feeds the accent rules. This is extremely important considering the fact that there are three layers in Paninian grammar: artha, shabda and swara. Now let us study what is asiddha and how it can be studied in the light of ach sandhi. So, within the adhikara ekapurva parayoho, which deals with ekadesha, there is a sutra Shatva Tukora Siddha 6186, which deals with asiddha. Asiddha literally means non-existent. Something does not exist. So, what Shatva Tukora Siddha says is that the one substitute in place of both previous and latter is not existent in the domain of Shatva and the augment tuk. Tuk means ta. I repeat, the one substitute in place of both ekaha purva parayoho, previous and latter, is not existent asiddhaha in the domain of Shatva and tuk, Shatva tukoho. Let us take the examples. So, first example is that of the suffix twa being added to the verbal root e to study with the preverb adhi. So, we have adhi, e and twa. So, adhi and e are shown in curly brackets because they form one unit. Adhi and e, they always come in combinations. You will not find this e without adhi. However, twa is added only after e. So, there are parentheses left hand side before e and right hand side after twa. So, technically twa is added to e. However, this e does not occur without this preverb adhi. So, there are these curly brackets indicating that this is one unit. So, now we have adhi, e and twa, and in this case we do the sandhi over here, which is akasavarane dirgha. So, we have adhi plus twa 61101. Then twa is replaced by lyap by 7135. So, we have adhi plus lyap. Now, this lyap has got pa as a marker, la as a marker, and only here remains as the suffix. Now, because of this pa, generally the augment tuk is added after a short vowel, raspasya pitikruti tuk 6171. Now, in case of the verbal root e, this is short, but because there is the savarna dirgha sandhi that has already taken place, there is no more short vowel, this is a long vowel. Now, can we add the augment tuk over here? It seems no, but Shatva Tukora Siddha 6186 is specifically designed to solve this problem, which now says that even though you have done the sandhi and there is this adhi long e, consider it as short e. So, this is actually the substitute, but now consider it as not happened, non-existent. So, consider this short e over here, and if we consider that this is short e, and so we have the vowel e over here, so we can now add the augment tuk and we get adhit and ya and finally adhitya. So, consider that this sandhi has not happened. So, we have adhi plus e over here and the verbal root is e. So, we can add the augment tuk and we can derive the form adhitya. Similarly, if we go to kosichat, ko plus asichat. Now, there is this sandhi, purva rupa sandhi stated by the sutra engap padanta dati will take place and we will have k o sichat. So, now this o will be considered as part of the purva pada and this will be considered as the initial element of this word, and then the shatva, which is the substitute sh, retroflex, that is negated by the sutra sat padadyoho. So this shatva will be negated. So this O as a ekadesha has already happened. Consider it as not happened. And if this is not happened, then this sa also comes immediately after a, and the basic condition of shatva is not fulfilled. And so there is no shatva. So we have kosichat, deriving the correct form. Now in the step adhi plus year, 6186 comes into play and says that even though the long substitute has already taken place, consider it as non-existent, and there is short vowel in place, so the augment is then added and we get the form adhitya. In kosichat, one substitute is non-existence and hence sound sa still comes immediately after short a, and hence the conditions for 8359 are not fulfilled, and hence sa does not get substituted by sh and we get the desired form kosichat. Now let us look at sandhi splitting. So we have so far studied the sutras with the help of which sandhi is generated. We also in this lecture studied some examples where sandhi got generated. Now let us talk about sandhi splitting. Simply reversal of rules will help sandhi splitting. This is quite simple, but there are problems. The major problem is overgeneration. So we will take an example of savarna dirgha sandhi. Now when you have to split a sandhi given a text, you will have to then tap each and every long vowel, for example, because there is possibility that every long vowel consists of the constituents a plus a, etc. 4 possibilities. Now that will lead to quite a lot of overgeneration, and in order to avoid overgeneration, the sandhi splitting task may require a strong lexica. So lexica of basic building blocks as well as intermediate forms, that is sub-word level information, that needs to be provided, as well as the finally derived forms. This is needed in order to do the sandhi splitting effectively without causing too much overgeneration. So for example, if we have karmanyevadhikaras and there is only one long a over here, so this long vowel can be split into the following components: karmanyeva and adhikaras, karmanyeva and adhikaras, karmanyeva and adhikaras, or karmanyeva and adhikaras. Amongst these 4 now, the lexica will come to our help and will be able to tell us that there is one more year there that can be split into e plus a or e plus a, and then karmani eva, that is part of the lexicon and not eva, and so the options eva are eliminated. Similarly, the word in the lexicon is adhikaras and not adhikaras, and so adhikara, that option is also eliminated. In this way, the most probable option seems to be the first one, and it needs to be supported also by lexicon. This is how the sandhi splitting can happen effectively. To summarize, in detail, we have studied several aspects of ach sandhi. its classification, its instances, their template examples, the specific examples, the rules, the traditional meta rules to interpret the sutras stating these ach sandhis. So, we have to close the ach sandhis now after this exhaustive study, and then now we proceed to study the consonant sandhi or the hal sandhi, which is the second most important type of sandhi in Sanskrit grammar. We shall do this in the next lecture. Thank you for your patience.